At SheCan, we tell women's stories. We interview women from all over the world and all different backgrounds because their stories matter, representation matters, their purposes matter, their businesses matter, and it's easier to be what you can see. I'm very excited to talk to Dr. Leanne Cullen-Unsworth today. Leanne, welcome to SheCan. You're the CEO and co-founder of Project Seagrass, and that is a global-facing environmental charity devoted to the conservation of seagrass ecosystems through building community around seagrass, generate awareness, do more research, and take action. And you have lots of different ways of taking action. Your mission really is to lead societal change to enable the recognition, recovery, and resilience of seagrass ecosystems globally. Tell us a bit more about what you do, Leanne, and also why it is so important.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here first. So thank you for inviting me to be chatting to you. And yeah, so Project Seagrass is, you've summarised it really well there. We're an internationally facing marine environmental charity. Our focus is on securing a future for seagrass across the globe. And that's important because it is a very near global resource. So seagrass grows everywhere on our planet, every continent apart from Antarctica. So you're probably not too far from a seagrass meadow if you're on a coastline anywhere else in the world, or where one should have been. So we do a lot of outreach and engagement. We work internationally with partners, national partners who are based on the ground, and we do restoration work and outreach and engagement and advocacy also from where we're based at home in Wales in the UK.
Yeah, Leanne, and I know you told me earlier, this is your busiest time of year. Tell us all the different projects that you have going on right now.
Yeah, so this is July, August are always super busy for us. And as we're increasing the restoration work that we do in the UK, then there's an increasing demand for us to be super busy at this time of year, because at the moment, the bulk of our restoration work depends on seeds that we collect from existing natural healthy meadows around the UK. And those seeds are only available for a really short window. So it's around 2 to 4 weeks really where the seeds are viable for us to collect those. And you kind of have a shift of sort of they ripen in the south before they ripen in the north. So our team have been busy off the South England coast in the Solent collecting some seeds for restoration work already. And our teams are preparing to go out at the moment in North Wales, and they're out in Scotland off the Orkney Islands doing various preparatory work and seed collection so that we've got that seed bank available that we can then look after and either grow transplants in our nursery to plant out at some of our experiment sites, or we'll just process them and look after them until they're ready to be planted later in the year across our different sites.
Leanne, it sounds amazing. Tell us a little bit more how you operate. You have obviously real experts in this area that you work with and co-founded this charity with. How are you financed? How do you work operationally?
So operationally, it's taken us a long time to get to where we are, I think, because we really came from the vision of an academic and two of his students 11 years ago now, and that was Richard Unsworth, and 20 years ago, more than that, we did our PhD research in Indonesia, and for me, I was looking at marine resource use patterns. And so this is kind of an important part of the story of where we've come from and why we've got this seagrass focus. And through that work, I had the expectation that, you know, people would locally be dependent on coral reefs and mangroves, those tropical habitats that everyone's heard of and most people do actually care about. But in reality, through doing that research, for me, it was a real light bulb moment, I guess, of what people were actually dependent on for livelihoods and subsistence. And there is a huge dependence on seagrass meadows as a resource to fish in for people. And that's for people for, small commercial gain, small scale fisheries where they would sell catch, but also for those people who had no other resource available to them. So a seagrass meadow, and this is the case wherever it grows, where you get an intertidal meadow that's exposed at low tide, it's accessible. You don't need any equipment. You can go and collect resources with your bare hands, and that's what people were doing. So it provided this source of livelihoods and protein for some people, the only source of protein to meet daily needs. And so this was really interesting to me, how critical this is. And people weren't really talking about seagrass and how important it was back then. And it wasn't in management plans. It wasn't really on the radar. There are a few key scientists who had been working on it, and starting to raise the profile within the academic community more than anything. But it really wasn't known as an important habitat or as a struggling habitat. And so beyond that, wherever I worked around the world on seagrass, you do get this dependence in many places still, but also there is this deep cultural connection to seagrass and seagrass meadows. Even in the UK, you see people who will go out shrimp collecting in seagrass, but they've done that because their families have done that for generations, and there's that tie to this particular habitat. And also, the incredible species that live in there. We ran some workshops up in North Wales for one of our restoration projects there, and a lady came to that and wanted to help because she remembers snorkeling in a seagrass meadow and seeing seahorses as a child, and she wanted to maintain that. She wanted to bring that back so that her grandchildren had that same opportunity of that experience of seeing that biodiversity. So I guess that sort of academic pathway was the route into this, and bringing other people then on that journey. So Project Seagrass was then thought up by Benjamin Jones, I think, came up with the idea of creating a more of a movement that was founded on science and the solid science and evidence that we were then creating along with others to try and really evidence the importance of seagrass, the role of seagrass, but also share that with a broader public. So with research done, Richard Unsworth and I had worked on seagrass for a long time, and then in 2013, Project Seagrass was founded as an organisation. And then in 2015, we got our charitable status. But until the past few years, really, it had been the 4 founders of the charity then just plugging away at this and doing research that fed into outreach and action that we wanted to do on the ground. We were able to partner with some great people for some bigger initial projects to get going. We had a big grant from Welsh Government to help with the restoration work that we wanted to do across Wales, and to basically build our capacity to deliver restoration at a bigger scale in the UK. But we continue to work on our international programs as well, but we're not the people that do things on the ground there, so we don't want to be that fly in, fly out type researcher, or go and tell people what to do. So we partner with local groups, national partners who are there on the ground, and then we can help build capacity locally to deliver a program of research or evidence building to present a case to policymakers for protection or managers for restoration, or just helping to build the argument to do something to stop the decline of this habitat.
Amazing, Leanne. I mean, it's amazing how you set something up that comes from research and an academic background, and now really is sharing all your knowledge and wisdom across the world. Leanne, so how do you get financed? Do you ask for grants? How do you bring the money in to then spend it on your important projects?
So yeah, we apply for grants, various grants. We also get lots of donations. We get sort of corporate scale donations, but then we get individuals who donate to us monthly, and all of those things are so important to us to be able to do our core business. At the moment, it's great, but it's to some extent frustrating that it's much easier to get funding for restoration, to put seeds in the ground, particularly from the business sector. And that's great because it needs to happen. We've lost so much of our seagrass. It's not going to regenerate without significant help. So we need that side of it. But what we also need is that core funding to help us still share the message and do the outreach and the engagement, and further develop educational materials, but also to push for protection of the existing meadows that we've got. There's a lot of interest at the moment in seagrass for carbon, and its carbon sequestration and carbon storage role. And so, but that funding is very much targeted at new meadows, bringing back what's been lost completely, whereas there is a lot to be done right now to protect what we've already got, where you've got healthy meadows that are already sequestering huge amounts of carbon, and they're doing that because they're in a place where they've got a healthy environment. The water quality is good enough that they can thrive and continue to pack down carbon under their roots and into the sediment. And that is a bank that we really need to protect, wherever seagrass is growing. I think that's one of the bigger challenges for us at the moment.
Yeah.
It's getting that balance right, and getting people on board with the value of protecting what we've already got. And it's not just, obviously not just the carbon. There's a lot of interest tied to that right now for obvious reasons, but it's the biodiversity as well. We are actually facing a biodiversity crisis, and seagrass across its range supports huge biodiversity. And that's, keystone species or culturally important species, or it's a nursery ground for 20% of our biggest offshore fisheries. It's critical for so many things.
Yeah, thank you for really showing the importance of your work and telling us that you need a shout out. Everyone who's listening to this, if this resonates with you, please give to Project Seagrass. Leanne, so tell us, let's go back a little bit about your journey, the pivotal points, very quickly. How did you get into this sort of line of marine life? How did you start your career? When did you realize I'm really interested in the ocean?
I think I've always been interested in the ocean, but I think my assumption is it comes from exposure. So my family, growing up, my grandparents had always had a caravan by the sea, and my mum worked in a school. And so every weekend and school holiday, that was the place that we would go to. And that was the place that I most wanted to be. And I remember as a child walking on the beach with my mum and picking stuff up, and, just being really interested in what was there, but wanting to know what it was called, or what the scientific name was, really nerdy stuff like that. But I think it derives from just being exposed to that and caring and wanting to be in that environment. And so I think I was about 10 when I decided I wanted to be a marine biologist, because that would take me down that route. But initially I did think, it was the biology that I was most interested in. But actually, I did a marine biology degree, which was wonderful, and thoroughly enjoyed everything that I learned there. But I went on to do a master's in marine environmental protection. And it was at that point, really, that I realized that it was conservation more than anything that I was interested in, and protecting this incredible blue planet that we live on. And so that kind of took me more down the management of marine resources role, and that's about people, and people being part of the ecosystem. We're not external to it. We're not just a nuisance. We are an important part of our ecosystem, and there are good things that we can do to change it and bring it back and bring life back to our oceans. And I suppose that then kind of led me to my PhD that was looking at marine resource use patterns, how people were using resources, and what could we do to basically sustain that resource for people to continue to use into the future. You know, not as a how do we keep people off or stop them using this. It's how can we use it sustainably, because it's part of lives and lifestyles and cultures, and it's an important part of those things. And so yeah, I guess through that, then I've mentioned the link to seagrass. That was an accident that it, you know, it just became clear how important seagrass was to people, and that we really need to do something to protect it, because it's declining across its range as well. You know, the world is losing seagrass still at a terrifying rate. In the UK, we've lost up to well, more than 90% of our seagrass over the last 40 to 100 years. It's huge. It does mean we've got an opportunity to put something back now, but it's much harder to put back stuff. It's much easier to expand, look after, protect what we've already got. So yeah, I guess that's then my journey into wanting to use my science to provide evidence of what change we can make on the ground realistically. And that's what Project Seagrass is fundamentally all about. It's using the best available science and evidence. And that's our own science that we do in-house. It's through collaborations that we have with other amazing scientists around the globe, or, you know, it's just the science that other people are doing that we can draw on, because there are a lot of great people working in this space now. It's quite heartening to see how seagrass as a science, as an, you know, an interesting focal point for science has grown. And it's a great model habitat for various scientific theories to be tested on, but also as in terms of conservation and protection of our natural environment, it is such a great example of how people and habitats are compatible. So there, you know, there isn't, you can fish in a seagrass meadow, you can do that in a way that's not going to damage the meadow. You can tweak the way you do things so that that becomes a sustainable activity. You can moor in a seagrass meadow using environmentally sensitive moorings, advanced mooring systems, and that's great because where seagrass grows, it favors shallow sheltered bays that are those safe havens for boats. You know, you can even anchor in a seagrass meadow if you really had to. You could do it in a way that's slightly more cautious. You know, it's just having an awareness of what's there. It's not, you know, you shouldn't be near it. It should just be there and be a keep out area. It's a fantastic example. And it's not, it's seagrass is my expertise, and it's the expertise of the scientists and the team at Project Seagrass. But, you know, we don't just need seagrass recovery. It comes as part of a connected seascape, and we want to see all of that seascape being rejuvenated and brought back to life. And so increasingly, you know, it's great to start collaborating on people working on other projects in this space, salt marsh or oyster reefs or kelp forests.
Yeah. Leanne, you said so many important things. You told us your story and you really shed a light on why your work is so important and how you do such an amazing job with Project Seagrass. I'm wondering what you think are your top qualities that you bring to the table that really serve you every day. You obviously have a very academic background that gives you an enormous amount of knowledge. What other qualities do you think you possess that really serve you?
Tenacity. Yeah, it's, you know, you it's not giving up. Like, we've been plugging away at trying to get the message out there for a long time now about this habitat. I've been working on seagrass for 20 years. There were people working on it before I started, and it's taken this long. It's really a recent shift that suddenly interest in this habitat. So I think if you've got something that you care about and you know that it's important and you know that people should be involved, you just have to keep talking about that. I think that's really important. But also, you know, I'm motivated by the ocean, by being near the ocean, by spending time at the beach and in a seagrass meadow. I have 3 young children, and they're my motivation daily. You know, it's not it's not just about us now, it's about those future generations, that this is the point where we've got this small window of time that we can still fix things. So if anyone has got ideas or things that they believe in, that they think that they can do something now and leave some kind of legacy to be continue to work on in the future, then I think you just have to stick with it and
Yeah.
tell as many people as possible. And people will come on that journey with you if you've genuinely got the passion and you can share that and get other people excited about it.
Yeah, Leanne, I think you said very important things, and I'm thinking the next generations. And I remember reading somewhere how important the ocean around the world is for people's well-being, and how there's real data around that. And so I'm wondering, Leanne, what do you feel are your biggest challenges with this purpose and passion and pursuit?
I think the biggest challenge at the moment for trying to, I think, sustain all of these habitats that we are watching continued decline across the globe is bigger thinking. It's catchment to coast type thinking. It's the holistic picture of what's going on our planet right now. For seagrass specifically, water quality is a major problem. It's going to kill off the existing meadows that we've got. It's going to change the dynamics in various meadows so that they're not a healthy system and can't deliver those ecosystem services that they're capable of. But also it'll prevent us restoring in certain areas where everything else might be perfect. And so the challenge is linking those things up. So it's linking what goes into rivers and comes down those rivers and goes into the coast, and what goes on offshore, like seagrass is at that coastal fringe. So impacts from both sides hit on it. And so one of the biggest challenges is dealing with that and bringing more people into the picture and collaborating more widely so that you're looking at a holistic picture of trying to revive our planet, essentially. And it's challenging to deal with water quality, even on a catchment scale, but it needs to go much bigger than that.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you for holding that really big vision, Leanne. Why don't you give us some top tips now on people, but as we're talking about women, women who are thinking about doing something impactful, something purposeful in the non-for-profit area? What top tips would you give them?
Um, Definitely hang on to your passion and make sure that other people understand that. I think that is key to people coming on our journey, is because we genuinely care about this and we've refused to be quiet. We ask questions, we talk about it, we share it with everyone we possibly can. I think it's also really important to build a really good team around yourself, because it's challenging being a woman in this space. It's challenging having to, you have breaks as a woman. I have those people around you that can support your vision, and so there don't need to be gaps. I'm lucky because I work with a team that I'm very close to, and so we have all worked hard on Project Seagrass and making sure Project Seagrass stays relevant as an organization so that we can keep sharing our messaging. But I built that strong team around yourself. So you can't do it on your own, and there is that pressure to do everything yourself. But particularly, if you're a mother or are thinking of becoming a mother, then it's those gaps that could make things difficult, and you need that team who also care and have this stuff embedded in their lives that they can support as well.
Leanne, and so what are your plans? What are the goals and the dreams and the next years looking like for you and Project Seagrass?
Well, we've developed a 10-year strategy, but essentially we want to stop the decline of seagrass globally. Like, that is the first big ambition, and that's something that lots of people now are focusing on across the globe, but it's halting that decline. And then there's a lot of work to do to then reverse that and start bringing back what's lost, and it needs to be a net gain for seagrass. And that's the challenge, because offsetting is not going to work. It takes a long time for restoration to work and to create a new habitat from scratch. So we need that net gain, and we need to be doing it now. So that's our biggest vision, is to do that, stop the decline and maintain those ecosystem services across the globe. Seagrass as a habitat, sorry, it's kind of an important point that I haven't touched on. It speaks to 16 of the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, and there is evidence for how seagrass can support all of the targets within those 16 goals, or most of them anyway. So it really is a critical habitat that can do so much, and we need to stop its decline and increase its cover.
Leanne, thank you so much for this incredible conversation, which was not just about your journey, but really the importance of your work and how important it is for the well-being of our planet and the people on the planet, i.e. us. So thank you so much for your incredibly insightful and passionate recount of your purpose and your life.
Thank you. Thank you. It's a pleasure to talk to you.